Paul, a repentant Pharisee who came to believe in Jesus Christ because he was called to serve Jesus. After he persecuted many Christians, he had to live with the humiliating fact that he was the cause of the death of them. And then turned around and had to die to himself and tell everyone how wrong he was. Paul, in our readings, is coming to the end of his life. And it was all a stage that God set. He had to get to Rome. And everywhere he went, he was ridiculed and put down and harassed. He was stoned. He was beaten. He was spit at. People hated him for his Christianity. And yet he never stopped teaching the truth. And even when the Pharisees and Sadducees were going against each other, they tried to kill him again. God said, "Still your nerves. I'm about to send you to Rome." And that's where you're going to meet a bad end. But he had to get to Rome. It's kind of like if we had to get a message across the entire world, we'd want to get to the White House, right? We'd want to get the ear of the president. Well, Rome was the center of all communication. And now he sits there locked up in chains, talking to his disciples, talking to anyone who will hear him. He is a captive for the love that he has shared with God. And even though he's a prisoner, he does not stop teaching the word of God, because rightly so, he says, you can't, cells, bars, chains cannot stop the word of God from penetrating the hearts of others. What a beautiful witness Paul is to the gospel today. We have a lot of anger in the world right now. There's so much injustice in this world. It would be hard to even account for all of the ugliness in this world. But now there are these riots breaking out from racism, and it's hard. It's hard to know what is right. But I look at what Jesus taught us today, and, he said the two greatest commandments, and pay attention, because he doesn't say the word love very much in the Gospels. You can go back and find that he doesn't say it very much. But today he says, love God with all of your heart, with all of your soul, with all of your might. Like, you devote yourself 100% to God. You love him, you trust him, you do what he says. And when you're done with that, you love your neighbor. And who is your neighbor? Absolutely everyone. Irregardless of what race we are, or how rich we are, or if we're male or female, or if we are atheist or Christian or Catholic or Muslim, our neighbor is literally everyone, because God didn't just come to save one person. He came to save everyone. That's a hard thing. In a way, right now, we are trapped behind a cell, and the media is the vision that we see. And I know for a fact that Jesus would want justice. He demands justice. But violence added to violence is more violence. An eye for an eye just leaves the world blind. Fire upon fire just burns the world up faster. I remember Mother Teresa, Calcutta, walked into a bakery seeking food for a small girl who was starving, and she asked the man for some bread for the child, and he spit in her face. She calmly wiped it off. And she said, "Thank you for my gift. How about some bread for the child?" He gave the child bread and began to help her so much more. I remember that she was dealing with AIDS victims, and she was holding them and caressing them and bathing their oozing wounds in New York City. And a reporter said, "I wouldn't do that for $1 million. And she said, "Neither would I." One of my heroes is Martin Luther King Jr. Elegant and beautiful. He understood God, and he wasn't Catholic, but he was Christian, and he didn't hate, he loved. And I see his niece every year at the March for Life, and she is love. And she has every reason to be bitter and angry at this world. My father came over after he escaped Germany in World War II. He never made friends. Everyone called him a Nazi, and they avoided him, never caring that he escaped from the same war after it killed his father. My mother came over from Ireland when she was 16. She didn't want to leave. They were starving, so she came here. They called her Dirty Irish. She wasn't allowed in certain restaurants and certain stores. The list of hate in this world, it will go on forever as long as Satan is the prince of this world. But Jesus said, love your neighbor as I love you. And what does that word love really mean? Well, it doesn't mean that you have to wrap your arms around these people who have done horrible things to you. I think of young women who are raped, forgiving their rapist. They don't need to become friends with their rapist. Love does not mean a hug and a squeeze and a kiss on the cheek. True love means I want heaven for everyone. I want heaven for everyone. Therefore, I pray for all of the people that I care about, but that's easy. I also care about all the people who have hurt me. I'd like to say that my life has been easy, but it hasn't. And yet, through these trials and tribulations of my life, I have learned to lean on God more than myself. And I have struggled and loved people who have hurt me. Don't let the chains of hate and violence and bigotry demand justice. Do peacefully protest. Strive for equality for all people. But do it in a way that Jesus wanted us to. Through sacrifice and love. Pray for our world. For we are all chained right now to the evils that we see. But I believe and I know in my heart and soul that Martin Luther King Jr. is a saint in heaven. And he's praying for us, and he's praying for our world. In the midst of this pandemic, in the midst of this difficult season, we are being prayed for. So let us not give up hope, but lean into hope. For even if we are in a prison, the Word of God reigns supreme, and no cell can hold words in. So preach, preach, preach. But only when necessary, use words. Most people learn through action.